So we'll continue further with the excretory system, furthermore to conclude this system. Now the next one, the process of micturition. So what do you mean by micturition? So once urine is stored in the urinary bladder, it has to be eliminated from the body. That process of elimination of urine from, or the process of release of urine from the urinary bladder is called micturition. So normally the process of micturition is under the nervous control reflex. That is why this neural mechanism responsible for causing this micturition is also called the micturition reflex. So usually what will happen, the urine is stored in the urinary bladder till a signal has been given by, a voluntary signal has been given by the central nervous system to initiate the process of release of urine. So the signal is purely voluntary from what is called the central nervous system. How does the signal actually being given by the central nervous system, or how does actually the central nervous system is being stimulated? Now the signal is initiated while the stretching of the urinary bladder occurs. Once the urinary bladder has been stretched because of the urine present in it, the receptors present in the walls of the urinary bladder sends impulses to the central nervous system. So immediately the central nervous system given out the motor message to the muscles of the urinary bladder, namely the smooth muscles of the urinary bladder, to undergo contraction. So the contraction of the urinary bladder is initiated by what is called a signal coming from the central nervous system. The same signal is also responsible for actually the dilation of the urethral sphincter muscle, so that causing the release of the urine from the urinary bladder. So anyway, it is simply a reflex activity. Though I am using the word reflex, it is actually a voluntary signal that has been given by the central nervous system to initiate the contraction of the muscles of the urinary bladder. At the same time, simultaneously, we have the relaxation of the urethral muscles, so that what will happen, the urine is being released from the urinary bladder. That is a mechanism. It is purely under the nervous control. Now a few facts about the urine. Okay, the amount of urine excreted by an adult is about 1 to 1.5 liters per day. It's the amount of urine excreted by an adult is about 1 to 1.5 liters. So out of 180 liters of filtrate that is being released, 1 to 1.5 liters being alone eliminated in the form of urine. So nearly 99% of the filtrate has been reabsorbed. Now the average amount of urea that has been excreted per day is about 25 to 30 grams per liter of, that is actually per 180 liters of filtrate that is being normally excreted, that is being filtered, and actually 25 to 30 grams of urea being excreted along with 1 to 1.5 liters of urine per day. Now what is the nature of the urine? What is the color? It is normally light yellow color, a watery fluid. It is normally acidic in nature, having a pH of 6.0 and having a characteristic odor because of the presence of urea and also other chromatin factors found in it. That is about the nature of the urine. A few words about that one. Now, so what is the indication of diabetes mellitus? How can you know that a person is being just normally affected by the sugar complaint or diabetes mellitus? So the presence of glucose in the urine, that condition is called glycosuria. When the glucose level is reaching more than the normal level, so normally you have trace amount of glucose in the urine. Sometimes glucose be excreted along with urine. That condition is called glycosuria. And also because of actually the breakdown of fat due to the decreased secretion of insulin hormone, we have also the release of ketone bodies. And the ketone bodies also excreted along with the urine. That condition is called ketonuria. So the glycosuria and ketonuria are actually indicative of diabetes, a diabetic condition in the case of patients suffering from what is called diabetes mellitus. When you have glycosuria and ketonuria in a condition, that is when you have more glucose in the urine and also having ketone bodies, a product of fat metabolism due to decreased production of insulin, and these two are the indicators of what is called diabetic condition in the case of individual. Now we have the kidneys. They are considered as the osmoregulatory organs as well as excretory organs for maintaining the fluid content in the body as well as excretion of waste products. So what are the other organs found in the body responsible for the elimination of the waste products? So one of the excretory organs we have the lungs. The lungs are responsible for the removal of carbon dioxide, during the process of expiration. So we have per day about 80 liters of carbon dioxide being expired from the lungs, along with nearly 400 ml of water. So per day we are losing nearly 2500 ml of water, out of which 400 ml of water being lost through the lung surface. So both carbon dioxide and water being lost through the lungs. So in such a manner, lungs are considered as excretory organs. Now number 2, liver. So liver is also considered as a factory of the body. If liver is not present in the body, most of the functions of the body has been affected, because it is a place of deamination of amino acids to form the urea, and also it is a place of detoxification of what is called the different types of drugs, and also responsible for converting the alcohol into the further products. And these are all the functions actually performed by the liver, major organ in the body, factory of the body, concerned with a number of functions. So it is also doing the function of what is called excretory activity. You know that one is a hemopoietic organ in the case of developmental stages, and in the adult it is acting as a graveyard for RBC. So it is also phagocytic in function, having some type of cells, the Kupffer cells. They are phagocytic in function, removing the bacteria from, that is normally the content of the blood, the one which reaches the liver. So liver secretes bile. That is the main secretion taking part in the process of digestion. That bile contains not only the bile salts for the breakdown of lipids, but also some products that ought to be eliminated. And those products are the pigments like bilirubin, bilirubinin. These are all the bile pigments, along with the cholesterol, anything in excess. And also we have, for example, vitamins, the toxic drugs, and some steroid hormones. Once they lost their function, they are also degraded in the liver. So all being eliminated through bile, which is normally released into the intestine. So bile is containing not only the bile salts useful for the breakdown of lipids, emulsification of lipids, but also contains some other materials which are to be excreted. The pigments, bilirubin, bilirubinin, cholesterol, the degraded actually steroid hormones, the vitamins which lost their functions, and also the toxic drugs and antibiotics, all being excreted by actually the liver in the form of bile, which is to be released into the intestine, from where it is being excreted or eliminated through undigested waste products. So in such a manner, liver is also playing a major role in the process of excretion. Now skin. Skin is also acting as an excretory organ, well. It contains different types of glands. The two major glands are the sweat glands as well as the sebaceous glands. The sweat glands are responsible for the secretion of the sweat, a watery fluid containing just mostly that one sodium chloride, a small amount of urea, and also lactic acid, all being excreted through what is called the sweat glands in the form of sweat. And another gland is sebaceous glands. This gland is also responsible for actually eliminating certain hydrocarbons. Some, for example, sterols, the fatty alcohols, and also the waxes, and all being excreted in the form of what is called sebum. So sebaceous glands eliminate such compounds like sterols, hydrocarbons, and waxes through sebum, and that sebum is actually acting as what is called a protective oily covering for the skin, preventing the dryness of the skin. Though it contains waste, it is acting as an oily fluid, preventing the dryness of the skin. So anyway, these are all the three major structures concerned with the excretion, along with what is called the kidneys. 1, the liver, number 2, the lungs, and number 3, the skin. All are concerned with somehow acting as excretory organs. Now, what are the disorders related to the excretory system? So we have a number of disorders actually associated with the excretory system once the kidneys are not functioning properly. And what we have, the common symptoms, the common disorders related to the excretory system. Now, uremia. This is nothing but the accumulation of urea in the blood. When the concentration of urea is increasing in the blood, it accumulates in the blood, and that condition is called uremia. So in the case of actually fishes, they are at elasmobranchs, for example, the cartilaginous fishes, they are accumulating urea in the blood for their own purpose to maintain what is called the osmotic concentration, keeping the medium isotonic with the surrounding medium, keeping the isotonic of what is called the fluid, the body fluid, in combination with or in coordination with or in correlation with what is called the outside surrounding medium. But in our case, when urea concentration is increasing, though urea is also having its own function responsible for maintaining the osmotic pressure, when its concentration increases, it causes a disease, what is called uremic condition or uremia. When the urea content is increasing more and more, it leads to the renal failure. Chronic renal failure or acute renal failure may result because of what is called increase in concentration of urea. That build-up of urea in the blood is called uremic condition. Now, renal calculi. These are nothing but the stones. Stones are mass of, insoluble crystallized salt. So, insoluble mass of some crystallized salts accumulate just actually in the urine, gets concentrated and forms stones either in the ureter or in the kidneys or in the urinary bladder, and they together call as renal calculi. They are nothing but the kidney stones or ureter stones or urinary bladder stones, and they are chemically formed of calcium phosphate or calcium oxalate. The stones are mainly formed of calcium oxalate and calcium phosphate, but there is an exception. In the case of people who are actually suffering from what is called metabolic arthritis, say an example of gout disease, people with the gout disease or people with metabolic arthritis disease, they have the stones mainly formed of uric acid, because that arthritis, what is called metabolic arthritis, is due to inborn error of metabolism of urine that results in the accumulation of uric acid crystals in the synovial fluid, in the synovial membrane, etc., leading to the gout disease. Such people excrete actually uric acid also. That uric acid is not being excreted, sometimes being accumulated in the kidney or in the ureter or in the urinary bladder, resulting in the formation of stones, and that is the chemical nature of the stones in the case of people suffering from gout disease. But in most of the cases, it is being formed of mainly calcium phosphate or calcium oxalate. So they are nothing but the salt, insoluble in nature, highly crystallized, and they are forming the stones. That stone is called renal calculus. So when you are comparing two, so the stones are formed either in the kidney or in the ureter or in the urinary bladder. When compared to what is called the bladder stones, the kidney stones and urinary stones are more common, more prevalent, more frequent than what is called the bladder stones. And when you have more incidence of stone formation, normally the incidence of stone formation is highest during summer season. What is the reason for that one? During summer season, the urine is more concentrated. When it becomes more concentrated, more being the formation of stone, because it becomes the contents being concentrated more and more accumulated, gets accumulated to form a stone. This is because of the loss of fluid in the form of sweat. So during summer, as we have the rate of perspiration is higher, more sweating occurs, that results in the formation of highly concentrated urine. That concentrated urine favors the accumulation or concentration of the salt in the form of stones either in the kidney or in the ureter or in what is called the bladder. I mentioned already the nature of the stone in the case of people suffering from gout disease. Stone consists mainly of uric acid. So people suffering from gout disease have stones mainly formed of uric acid. Gout is nothing but a metabolic arthritis disease where it is being formed because of inborn error of purine metabolism. So purine metabolism always results in the formation of uric acid. The uric acid accumulates to form urate crystals, and the urate crystals get accumulated in the kidneys or in the ureters or in the bladder, that results in the stone mainly formed of uric acid. Now we can have certain mechanisms to disintegrate the stones. So if the stones are formed in the, for example, in the urinary bladder or in the ureter, they can be removed easily when compared to those stones found in the kidneys. So it is normally impossible to disintegrate the stones by means of various sources when present in the kidney. The kidney calculus is not being removed easily. But when present in the urinary bladder or in the ureter, they can be disintegrated and removed. So the process of disintegration and removal of stones, that is in the bladder, is called cystoscopy. The method of disintegration and removal of stones from the bladder is called cystoscopy. Similarly, the method of disintegration and removal of stones from the ureter is called ureterorhinoscopy. The process of removal of stones by disintegrating it and removing it from the ureter is called ureterorhinoscopy. These are the methods adapted to remove the stones when present in the ureter or in the bladder. But the first line of treatment is called what is known as lithotripsy. The first line of treatment for kidney stones. So I mentioned already the kidney stones cannot be removed easily. It is easy to remove the what is called the ureter stones by means of ureterorhinoscopy, and it can also be removed from the bladder by means of what is called cystoscopy. But in the case of actually stones present in kidneys, they should be removed only by means of just what is called focusing the stones to the shock, and that method is called what is known as lithotripsy. So in this method what we are doing, we are focusing shock waves towards what is called the stones. We are disintegrating the stones and the disintegrated stones being removed gradually. So that is why it's called the first line of treatment for kidney stones removal. So it is nothing but actually disintegrating the stones by focusing shock waves on them. Now, so that is about what we have the stone formation in different parts of the kidney, the methods adapted to remove the stones from that one. Now the next disorder, glomerulonephritis. So any word ending with the suffix TAS always referring to the inflammation of that organ. So the glomerulonephritis normally resulted because of the inflammation of the glomeruli of the kidney. For example, I mentioned nephritis, endocarditis, appendicitis, hepatitis. Any word ending with the suffix TA is always referring to the inflammation of that particular organ. So here it refers to the inflammation of the glomeruli of the kidney, hence called glomerulonephritis. Now renal failure. So normally the kidneys are concerned with the removal of waste products from the body. They are doing it normally. When there is a reduction in the ability of the kidneys, when their ability is being reduced to separate the waste products from the blood and excrete them in urine, then the condition is called renal failure. So anyway, the reduction in the ability of the kidneys to separate the waste products from the blood and excrete them or release them through urine is called what is known as renal failure. There are so many reasons for the renal failure, for example, meeting an accident or chronic disorders like diabetes mellitus or any other metabolic disorders. So we have two different types of renal failure. One type is called acute renal failure, the one which is happening all of a sudden. It is being of sudden onset. The second one is chronic renal failure, the one which is normally developing is actually gradually. It is lasting forever. Acute renal failure can be cured easily once the problem has been detected. But in the case of chronic renal failure, it is being actually because of so many causes. When the blood flow is less to the kidney, or because of actually some cancerous growth to the kidney, or because of diabetes mellitus or any other metabolic diseases. So anyway, we have a number of disorders responsible for causing the chronic renal failure. It is developing more gradually. At the same time, it is persisting for a long while till death. Whereas acute renal failure can be cured within a short period. Once actually the cause has been detected, it can be cured. So for example, the acute renal failure happens in the case of people who are meeting an accident when there is a loss of blood. At times we have acute renal failure. Then nephritis. This is a common term used for the inflammation of the kidneys. I mentioned already, any word ending with the TAS referring to the inflammation of that organ. Here it is nothing but the inflammation of the kidney resulting in a condition of nephritis. Then the next one, anuria. When the kidneys fail to actually excrete urine or form urine, that condition is called what is known as anuria. So failure of the kidney to form urine or to separate the waste products from the blood to form urine, that condition is called anuria. Then what do you mean by polyuria? It is one of the symptoms of diabetes, you know that one. When a person is excreting large volume of urine, then the condition is called polyuria. So when compared to the normal condition of 1 to 1.5 liters, a person is excreting more than 1.5 liters of urine per day, then the condition is called polyuric condition. Excretion of large volume of urine or excretion of increased quantity of urine. Now, alkaptonuria. So it is a genetic disorder It is not actually a physiological disorder, it is a genetic disorder. It is caused by a recessive gene present in chromosome number 12. It is an autosomal recessive gene disorder present in chromosome number 12, and it is also an example for one gene, one enzyme hypothesis. According to the hypothesis, each step in a biosynthetic pathway is catalyzed by an enzyme. The enzyme is produced under the control of a particular gene. When a particular gene is undergoing mutation, the particular enzyme will not be formed or a defective enzyme will be produced. That results in accumulation of a particular product by blocking that particular step in the biosynthetic pathway. That is called metabolic block. So likewise here, when the gene responsible for the production of one enzyme, homogenetic acid oxidase, one enzyme, homogenetic acid oxidase. This enzyme is responsible for converting this homogenetic acid. It is normally called as alkapton. The trade name for this one, alkapton, or homogenetic acid. One of the products formed during the phenylalanine metabolism. During phenylalanine metabolism, the phenylalanine gets converted into what is called phenylpyruvic acid, tyrosine, and then homogenetic acid. This acid gets oxidized to form fumarate acetoacetic acid, and that is being brought about by this enzyme homogenetic acid oxidase. When this enzyme is normally absent because of a defective gene, this acid accumulates in the blood, what is called alkapton, and excreted in urine. When excreted in urine on exposure to atmosphere, it gets oxidized and giving black color to the urine. That is why it is called black water disease. It is called black water disease or alkaptonuria, containing large amount of what is called alkapton or homogeneous acid. So this is one of the genetic disorder we will be studying more about in 12th standard also. Now the next one, diuresis. When you have one of the hormones, for example ADH hormone, this is called antidiuretic hormone. Why is it called antidiuretic hormone? Because it prevents the loss of water, responsible for the elimination of concentrated scanty urine. So the process of elimination of diluted urine in large quantity is called diuresis. The process of elimination of large quantity of diluted urine. Or simply we can say the excretion of volume of urine is increased in such cases. People are excreting, this is because of the absence of one enzyme, what is called ADH enzyme. Sorry, I made a mistake, it is not an enzyme, the hormone. So because of the deficiency of this hormone, ADH hormone secreted by the neurohypophysis, the one responsible for the reabsorption of water, what I mentioned from the collecting tubule in the case of formation of urine, this hormone favors the reabsorption of water from the collecting duct, thereby increasing the concentration of urine and promoting the reabsorption of water so that the water loss is prevented. But in the case of diuresis condition, when this hormone is deficient, there is no reabsorption of water, ultimately the water being normally excreted more and more. That condition is called diuresis condition. This is because of the deficiency of hormone ADH, what I said previously enzyme, wrongly said, but it is a hormone. It's a hormone, not an enzyme. So excretion of large volume of urine, particularly diluted urine, is called what is known as diuresis. That is being prevented by antidiuretic hormone, hence called antidiuretic hormone. The process of elimination of concentrated urine is called antidiuresis. Now kidney transplantation. So it is normally being done in transplantation. You know that one, the replacement of an organ, when a particular organ has been damaged or diseased in a pathological condition in human body, that has been replaced by a healthy actually donor organ, and that process is called transplantation. If it is being done for kidney, then it's called kidney transplantation. So it refers to an operation in which a diseased kidney has been replaced by a healthy donor kidney. So to the recipient it has been done. So the first kidney transplantation was conducted in Washington by Dr. Charles Hebnaker. He conducted the kidney transplantation in 1954 between what is called the identical twins, having the same type of what is called antigen blood groups and also having the same genotype. That is why it was easy for him to do the process of transplantation. So the first transplantation with reference to what is called kidney was performed by Charles Hudnagel. So you know that one in the case of heart transplantation being performed by an African doctor, Bernard, you know that one, the same condition here, it was performed by a doctor from Washington, just actually from America, Dr. Charles Hudnagel. He was known for kidney transplantation. He did it in 1954. So normally one healthy donor kidney is sufficient for the recipient person to live normally. We know that we have 1 million nephrons. Out of this 1 million nephrons, it is enough to have 450,000 nephrons enough for the normal survival. Even less than one kidney, we can say, but it's not possible. Each kidney contains, you know, that 1 million nephrons. Out of this 1 million nephrons, it is enough to have 450 million nephrons for the normal survival. That's why also we are donating the kidney. You know that one, it's enough to have one healthy kidney for the normal survival. That's why a person can donate to anybody who is deficient of actual kidney function. So one healthy donor kidney is sufficient for the normal functioning. And for normal function, even in the case of healthy body, the sufficient number of nephrons we need 450,000. That's enough for a normal survival. So when nephrons return to the sea, what's the meaning for that one? So normally in the case of, you see, we have two different types of nephrons. One, in the case of freshwater animals or in the case of land animals, we have glomerular nephrons. That means nephrons with a glomerular line. And another one, in the case of marine animals, we have nephrons without glomerulus. It is an adaptation to preserve water and prevent the loss of water. That's why we have normally, just in the case of animals living in marine water, they have aglomerular nephrons. That is nephrons without glomerulus. And similarly, in the case of freshwater animals and also the land animals, we have glomerular nephrons because to eliminate what is called excess of water from the body. So, in acute and chronic renal failure, what will happen? The glomerular capillaries fail to filter the waste materials. In such cases, the only method of just eliminating or separating the waste product is tubular secretion. And that is normally the case of those nephrons which are surviving. So in the case of pathological condition or in the case of acute or chronic renal failure, some of the nephrons already have become dead. In such cases, in the case of surviving nephrons, as the glomeruli are not being actually completely present, in some cases they are even absent, they are either reduced or completely abolished. In such cases, normally only the tubular secretion method, the one which is being done by the epithelial cells of the different parts of the tubule, alone responsible to form the urine. This is normally common in the case of acute and chronic renal failure. And in pathological condition, what will happen? The secretory mechanism, that is the one normally contributing mainly to the elimination of highly toxic or potentially toxic waste products from what is called from the body in a sparingly small amount of water, because in such cases also we have only small amount of water. And the same condition is prevalent in the case of animals which are living in marine water, and that is why it's called nephrons return to the sea. The meaning for that one, they are resembling the nephrons of the marine animals, where the nephrons have no glomerulus normally or reduced glomerulus. In such cases, it is the tubular structure, the various parts of the tubule, the epithelial cells, and to remove the waste substances, the toxic substances, the potentially harmful substances from, that is the filtrate. That is why that process called simply, that's a mechanism operating in the case of marine water. The same also in the case of people who are suffering from acute renal failure or chronic renal failure, or in the case of pathological conditions. The only mechanism of elimination of waste products is by the secretory process performed by the tubules of different parts of the nephron. So that is why it is acting as similar to that of aglomerular nephrons, hence the name, just actually nephrons return to the sea. That is the meaning for that one. They are acting like the nephrons present in the case of marine animals where the glomeruli are absent. So that's the meaning for that one. It is happening in the case of chronic acute renal failure or pathological conditions where you have the only mechanism of separation and excretion of waste products is the secretory mechanisms. They contribute to the elimination of highly toxic or potentially toxic products, just like the aglabular nephrons of the marine animals. So here is a picture, you see that one, this is the normal nephrons. Here the filtration occurs. So here actually the materials are filtered, we have the reabsorption of water and also the secretion of various materials. Now in the case of acute renal failure and chronic renal failure, you could see now the glomeruli are absent. So here you see that one, just the organic anion, water all being secreted because there is no filtration process. Now the blood vessels are reaching these areas. From these blood vessels, the water anions all being removed and secreted into the filtrate. And also the water reabsorption is very less. That is why the arrow mark is thin in nature. And also the various materials are secreted. The waste products, for example, hydrogen ions, you have potassium ions, ammonia, urea, all being secreted in the filtrate. That is the condition you can see. And in the case of actually people where the nephrons are exposed to hypertonic condition, where the fluid content, what we have in the body is highly concentrated. When the fluid, the blood content is highly concentrated, there occurs what we call the dehydration, loss of water. Loss of water occurs. So loss of water occurs normally. In such cases also we have, see the water being reabsorbed. This is because of the effect of only the tubules. Where there is a loss of water, excess of water which is being lost because of the process of hypertonic dehydration, that is also being reabsorbed actively by the cells. So anyway, here the mechanism operating is nothing but the tubular secretory activity or the mechanism responsible both for absorption and also for excretion of the waste products, and the glomeruli are failed to filter. They are not taking part in the filtration process as in the case of marine animals. That is why it is called actually very nephrons. Return to the sea, the meaning for that one. They are becoming what is called aglabular nephron-like structure, just like the marine animals. Now let us see some of the facts related to, that is, excretion process in vertebrates. You know that one, the process of urea formation occurs in the liver. The urea biosynthesis occurs mainly in the liver by means of one cycle, what is called ornithine cycle. It was explained by Krebs. So it's also called as Krebs cycle, just like what we call the Krebs cycle. So it was exposed by Krebs. So the urea biosynthesis in the liver was explained by Krebs only. Just the cycle is called ornithine cycle because the main product, the one which is being recycled again and again, is ornithine. That's why the cycle is called ornithine cycle. Then what are the structures or what are the components needed for the formation of urea? For the formation of one molecule of urea, we need one molecule of carbon dioxide, 2 molecules of ammonia and 3 molecules of ATP. These are the components needed, 1 molecule of carbon dioxide, then 2 molecules of ammonia and 3 molecules of ATP are needed to form 1 molecule of urea through urea biosynthesis in the liver by means of what is called ornithine cycle. Now, some of the facts related to the excretory system, not in the case of human beings but in the case of other animals. So what do you mean by salt glands? Normally these are all the glands present in the case of marine reptiles and birds. What for? For the excretion of excess of salt that enters in the body along with the food and water. See, normally the birds, the seagulls as well as the reptiles living in sea water, they are all depending on the food of what is called the sea. While taking actually food, they are also taking high salt content into the body that has to be eliminated from their bodies. That is brought about by the salt glands. They remove the excess of salt that enters into the body along with the food and water of these animals, possibly mostly abundant in the case of marine reptiles. For example, in the case of seagulls, the bird, seagulls, most often you could see more number present only just towards the sea region. And also in the case of penguins, another bird, normally you know that one flightless bird found in Arctic region. There are certain ducts arising from the glands. They are reaching towards the nasal cavity. And the salt water fluid is normally dripping out at the tip of the bills like this actually. This is the bill. You have the nostrils, external nostrils. Now there is a dripping of the fluid. So the salt water fluid is being dripped out through the nostrils of the bird's beak, and just actually looking like what is called the bird is normally crying. So this is nothing but actually the excess of salt present in the body is eliminated in the form dilute watery form through what is called the external nostrils and actually coming from the glands through the duct. It is what is actually dripping out. So whereas in the case of giant marine turtles, so here it is actually being dripped out through the external nostrils, but in the case of giant, just for example sea turtle, these glands are opening near what is called the eye region, where you have the dripping of the fluid. Even you can have in the case of crocodile too. So anyway, normally this is nothing but the salt water which is being dripped out from the salt gland through different mechanisms. So in the case of giant sea turtle, it opens near the eye. In the case of birds like seagulls and also penguins, it opens actually through the nostrils, or is being dripped out through the nostrils. Now, there are certain adaptations that have been developed by what is called fishes living either in marine water or in fresh water. It's particularly the case of marine water because the salt content of the marine water is higher, so these animals are living in particularly hypertonic solution of hypertonicity. So in order to compensate the water loss, because when you have just actually less concentrated, say the body water will happen, the excess of water being lost, or they are consuming more and more salt that should be eliminated. So either to eliminate the salt or to conserve water, they have certain mechanisms. For example, the case of marine teleas, an order includes the bony fishes, marine bony fishes. They store in their blood what is called trimethylamine oxide, TMO. What for? Just they are storing this one in their blood, a product trimethylamine oxide. They are storing in their blood to raise their osmotic concentration, to equalize the osmotic concentration outside. Then only the water will not be lost. Then only there is no loss of salt, there is no gain of salt, etc. So to maintain the water content of the body, to maintain the salt content of the body, they have normally developed one mechanism. They are storing trimethylamine oxide in their blood to raise the osmotic concentration of the body fluids, so that there is no loss of what is called water, because both outside and inside medium having the same tonicity, what is called isotonic condition. And similar in the case of marine cartilaginous fishes, there you have the bony fishes, TMO. In the case of marine cartilaginous fishes, they store urea in their blood to raise their osmotic concentration. What for? To just keep up their what is called isotonic condition in the medium. So when they have more urea in the blood, this is called physiological uremia, not a disorder unlike human beings. In human beings, when you have the accumulation of urea, then it's called disease uremic condition. But in the case of actually the animal where it purposefully normally storing urea in its blood, it is an example for physiological uremia, for some sort of adaptation, and they are responsible to keep their body concentration, namely the fluids, morally isotonic conditions to the surrounding medium. That is why there is no loss of water or salt on either side. So these are all some of the adaptations seen in the case of marine teleas and also case of marine cartilaginous fishes, to maintain the water content and also to prevent the water loss and also to excrete the salt. Now aglamerular nephrons, I mentioned already. So we have two different types of nephrons in animal kingdom. One is aglamerular nephrons, another one glomerular nephrons. Now in the case of aglamerular nephrons, which are commonly seen in the case of marine animals, what for? To reduce the loss of water. To reduce the loss of water along with what is called urine. This is one of the adaptations. So in the case of aglamerular nephrons, you know that one, they do not have the glomerular line. This is an adaptation to prevent the water loss. There you have what is called the mechanism for urine formation is nothing but the secretory active mechanism or active secretory mechanism done by the tubules. That's why I mentioned already, when this nephron return to the sea, the meaning for that one, the glomerular nephrons are converted into aglamerular nephrons, acting like, not converted, they are acting like aglamerular nephrons during pathological conditions. So in such animals, there is also an excess of salt. There is also possibility of entering a more and more salts into the body. Such excess salts in the body is normally eliminated through certain cells what are called chloride cells. They are normally secreting their salt. These chloride cells are found in the gill chamber, in the gills, normally in the gills, and these are all responsible for secreting the excess of salts present in these animals, particularly the marine animals, which enter into the body along with food and water. Now the next one, what I mentioned, the glandular nephrons, which are very common in the case of animals which are living in fresh water. They are concerned with the elimination of water. There, in the case of glandular nephrons, they prevent the water loss, and this one is promoting what is called the excess of water just to be eliminated from the body when present. So the excess of water present in the body is to be eliminated only by the glandular nephrons. They are favoring the elimination of water, and the glandular nephrons are normally favoring the retention of water in the body. Now the last part of our system, artificial kidney, hemodialysis. So what do you mean by artificial kidney? So it is normally devised to remove the waste products from the body in the case of people who are suffering from acute or chronic renal failure. In the case of pathological condition, the kidney or the nephrons are unable to filter the waste products. The kidney is unable to separate the waste products. In such conditions, we need what is called an artificial kidney, a device to remove the waste products from the blood and excrete them in what is called the urine through a process, what is called dialysis. Now, I mentioned already it is being done in the case of people who are suffering from not only there is acute renal failure but also chronic renal failure. Though I mentioned here acute renal failure, it is also being done in the case of people who are suffering from chronic renal failure. So, in such patients, we are removing the urea by a process. The name of the process is called hemodialysis, and for that one we are using the artificial kidney or dialyzer. Now the function of this artificial kidney or dialyzer is similar to that of kidney, but it is different from the kidney function because in the dialysis process there is no reabsorption is taking place. Kidney is normally concerned with the reabsorption of materials, whereas this one is not concerned with the reabsorption. So in hemodialysis, it is meant for only removing the waste products, and that is not meant for, that is reabsorption. So that's why it is different from the kidney in not being provided with the process of reabsorption. Now what is the component in that one? So what is the mechanism? So normally blood is drained from a convenient artery, particularly from the artery from the forearm. It is being pumped into the what is called the artificial kidney, and where you have what is happening in the artificial kidney, the waste products are removed. So before this blood is being pumped into the artificial kidney, it is being added with small amount of anticoagulant like heparin to prevent the coagulation of blood. The first one, you have to drain the blood from the convenient artery, particularly from the forearm artery, the brachial artery. Then it is being pumped into what is called the unit called artificial kidney, and before it is being pumped, we have add a pinch of anticoagulant heparin to prevent the coagulation process. So what are the components normally present in that one? You could see in the diagram or in the picture. Now see here the blood is being drained and pumped into what is called this kidney unit, artificial kidney unit or dialyzing machine or dialyzer. Now this unit consists of what is called spirally arranged or parallelly arranged, what is called cellophane tubes. Cellophane tubes. These cellophane tubes are lined with a semi-permeable membrane, which allows the actually exit of materials from the blood into the surrounding medium. So the tubes are actually kept just surrounded by a fluid medium. That fluid is called a dialyzing solution. The fluid is called a dialyzing solution, whose composition is similar to that of blood plasma except that no nitrogenous waste products. So the blood contains nitrogenous waste products. So the composition of the blood and the dialyzing solution surrounding the cellophane tubes having what is called semi-permeable lining allowing the exit of materials is similar to that of blood plasma except that no nitrogenous waste products in that fluid. So the yellow structure, the yellow region represents the dialyzing fluid. Now the cellophane tubes normally representing filled with, actually the tubes filled with the blood. Now as the nitrogenous waste products are formed in the dialysing fluid, its concentration is less when compared to what is called just actually the blood. Now the nitrogenous waste products like urea moves out of the tubes entering into, that is what is called the dialysing fluid. Once actually the fluid, just the waste products leaves the fluid, namely that is what is called the blood. Now the blood is being pumped out and returning to the body through a nearby vein, that is brachial vein. So you have the artery and veins being placed just nearby only. From that only you have to drain up and also just allowing the blood back to the body. Now you have to just constantly remove the dialysing fluid. So the dialysing solution contains urea collected. It should be pumped out. Now this is actually used dialysing solution. Once again it is being filled with constantly fresh dialysing solution for easy removal of the waste product. So it is being done in the case of this mechanism is called hemodialysis. We also have peritoneal dialysis. In that one we are not using any machine, simply we are keeping the peritoneal body cavity and the blood vessels, the capillaries found on the wall of the intestine as the filtering mechanism, just comparable to the cellophane tubes. So in the case of peritoneal dialysis, the capillaries found on the walls of the what is called artery, on the walls of the intestine, they are acting as what is called the cellophane tube system like, and through which one the waste products are collected, then it is being drained from the peritoneal cavity outside through a catheter. That is also another method. So this is the one what we are doing in the case of hemodialysis. What I explained so far, the same one is there. So the blood is drained and pumped into that one what is called the cavity, or that is artificial kidney, where you have just the cellophane tubes having what is called semi-permeable lining, and that one is surrounded by the fluid, what is called the dialysing fluid, whose composition is similar to the blood plasma except that no nitrogenous waste products. So there is a concentration gradient between the blood and what is called actually the surrounding fluid, the dialysing fluid, because the concentration is higher in the blood due to the presence of nitrogenous waste products and lesser in the dialysing fluid. So based on this concentration gradient, now the waste product moves out, particularly urea, just moves out of it and entering into the dialysing fluid. After it has been removed, now the blood has been cleared. Once again it is returned back to the body after adding once again what is called anticoagulant, just what is called just to prevent. So we are adding anticoagulant like heparin. Now we have to add anti-heparin substance. Anticoagulant like heparin, that is the one. So we have to just once again keep the blood content more or less. You see that one, the clear blood is pumped back to the body through a nearby vein after adding anti-heparin. So we are adding just a heparin anticoagulant before it is being actually dialyzed. After it has been dialyzed, we have to add anti-heparin. Suppose if you have the heparin, you know that one just normally something is taking place inside the body. So heparin is an anticoagulant preventing the coagulation. If heparin is actually present still there, when there is an injury, there is no coagulation occurs. That is why we have to add anti-heparin to promote the process of clotting when there is an injury occurs. That is a mechanism. So while the blood is pumped into the artificial kidney, we have to add heparin. While the blood is returning back to the body, we have to add anti-heparin to promote the coagulation process when there is any injury occurs normally. So with that I concluded the part of the excretory system. We will continue further about that one just to the next system, that is neural control and coordination in the next class. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.